Вот так. Для тех, кто в записи, я сделал... Сходите на мой Twitch. У вас там 300 тысяч Twitch. У вас там 300 тысяч просмотров на нарезке. Но нет на стриме. Это как понимать? Тут очень прикольно. Есть донт. И уж если грустить, то красиво. Все, это все, что я хотел сказать.
Всем привет! С вами Кошеня. Сегодня будем смотреть chaomix. I created Sonic Adventure kind of. Переводится как «Я создал что-то типа Sonic Adventure». Вперед!
Oh, so you're a Sonic fan, huh? Okay then.
Мы фанат
Name every
Соника,
single
да.
line of code in Sonic Adventure.
Назови
Yeah,
каждую
that's what I
строчку
thought.
кода в Sonic
Until the
Adventure.
actual source code is out there, it's
А
an
здесь
impossible
прям
task.
перевод.
But that hasn't stopped others from at least trying to recreate Sonic's character controller from these games. Just look at the countless amount of 3D fan games that attempt to recreate the adventure physics. I mean, I can't blame them. Sonic's character controller from Adventure 1 and 2 is kind of the best one there is. In my
Контроллер,
opinion, no
да,
other
но
game has
камера
even gotten
это...
close to how immaculate Sonic handles in these games. However,
Да,
unless you really
управляемость просто
understand how
дикая.
this game works under the hood, knowing what's truly going on is a guessing game at best. But honestly, that's kind of where the fun lies. Trying to reverse engineer how the physics work just based off of observations. It's the ultimate game design exercise, and it's exactly what
Да,
we'll be
офигеть, я
doing
никогда не
today,
задумывался об этом.
digging deep into the inner workings of the physics of Sonic Adventure. Come on, we all know you love
Движок,
this
что ли?
stuff. It's the exact
Физику
reason you're subscribed. You are
происходящего.
subscribed, right?
Какой там
Good.
вообще
And
движок?
make sure to leave a like too while you're at it.
Может,
It
сначала
really
для
helps me out.
Dreamcast делался, там
Anyways,
какой-то
welcome
свой
to
движок.
chaomix, and today we'll be attempting
Hedgehog
to recreate the
Engine 0.
character controller from the Sonic Adventure games.
Нифига себе. Но это как будто пик. Как будто нас ждет пик.
Let's recreate the physics from the Sonic Adventure games. To do this, we'll need to pay close attention to how Sonic interacts with the environment and make some guesses on how his movement might be calculated.
У него
It
как
may
будто
surprise
пониженная
you, but a
гравитация.
lot of these quote-unquote physics are actually extremely faked. I mean,
Ну
that
да,
goes for any
да.
video game, honestly. It's all smoke and mirrors hiding the true messy and case-by-case way the game handles Sonic's interactions with the environment. You'll definitely see this as we go deeper and deeper into developing our character controller.
А?
So let's see if we can figure out how this all works. Luckily, I'm pretty familiar with these games and have a good feel for how they control. But before we do that, we'll have to set up our project in Unity, my game engine of choice. Let's just come up with a nice
Ну-ка.
title and... there we go. We're really doing it, boys.
Epic
The next
remake.
Sonic Adventure title is finally upon
Да,
us.
да, да,
Now
давай.
that we're in Unity, I can do some basic setup to prep for all the gameplay scripts I'll need to make.
Блин,
We're obviously
Unity,
at least going to need a
эти
floor for
behaviorы.
testing Sonic's movement, so let's make a green checkerboard plane. Ah, yes, exactly like Green Hill Zone. I can
Green Hill
already
Zone.
hear Sega on their way to hire me for the next Sonic game. We'll add this basic capsule to represent
Remake
the player
Sonic
for now.
Heroes, please.
We'll eventually add in Sonic's actual model and animations later on. Okay, this is kind of boring. Let's at least spice it up a bit with some basic shapes. Ah,
Всё, можно
yes,
сказать, это
he's
пик.
perfect. Absolutely
Yeah, it's
perfect.
perfect.
Now we can begin
Absolutely
programming. First, we'll need to program some basic movement. In the Sonic Adventure series, Sonic has what's called momentum. Yes, the thing that
Momentum,
makes
да.
Sonic's gameplay so incredibly unique. This means that Sonic gradually builds up speed when starting a run, but it also means that he gradually loses speed when
Да,
coming to a
терять
stop.
её
There's a
и
few
сохраняешь,
other
что
cool
самое
things momentum
классное.
can do,
Вот,
but
вот,
we'll
при
talk
таких.
about this later. But basically, it's inertia, which in real life is extremely complicated and has a ton of factors that mathematically play into it.
Да,
But lucky
инерция
for
это
us, we
просто
aren't calculating
кошмар.
real-world
Механика это.
physics. Remember, as I said earlier, a lot of these physics are actually faked. So how does this all work in the
Чего?
adventure games? Well, when you begin holding down a direction on the controller, Sonic's speed begins increasing by a certain rate. When you let go, he'll begin slowing down at another rate. Something I noticed
Да.
is that Sonic slows down way faster than he speeds up, and this is probably to make
Ну,
it so it
конечно,
doesn't
чтобы
feel
вот
like he's
был.
sliding on ice. So we'll need to make a few new variables on our player controller. Current speed, which keeps track of how fast Sonic is going, an acceleration rate, which is the rate that Sonic speeds up, and a deceleration rate, which is the rate that Sonic slows down.
Замедляется.
Another thing we can notice is that Sonic's speed
Deceleration.
seems to reach a certain peak speed when running on flat ground. This is different from Sonic's max speed, as Sonic should be able to surpass top speed as he goes downhill. So let's make a variable called top speed, which is the speed value Sonic will accelerate
Ну,
to before
Топ
factoring in
спид.
things like
Можно
slopes.
макс спид
And
назвать.
then max speed, which
А,
will be the
это
absolute
отдельно?
highest amount our speed will be able to get to. We'll
Так,
clamp
еще
our
раз.
current speed variable
Еще раз, я не понял, в чем разница
Sonic's
между...
top speed as he goes down.
Да.
This is different from Sonic's max speed, as Sonic should be able to surpass top speed as he goes downhill. So let's make a variable.
Еще раз.
Speed seems to reach a certain peak speed when running on flat ground. This is
По
different
ровной
from
поверхности.
Sonic's max speed, as Sonic should be able to surpass top speed as he goes downhill. So let's make a
Понятно. Когда
variable
он
called
спускается
top
с
speed,
горы.
which is the speed value Sonic will accelerate to before factoring in things like slopes. And then max speed, which will be the absolute highest amount our speed will be able to get to. We'll clamp our current speed variable to this number, meaning it'll never surpass it. I know Sonic's supposed to be the fastest thing alive, but we don't want Sonic to be too fast. It doesn't exactly make for a very good game if you can't control it. We'll also have to make sure that Sonic rotates in the direction that we're pointing him in. We'll do this by rotating his player model based on the control stick's direction. And just like that, we have movement. Oh, that is not right. Hold on.
Nah.
I'm a professional game developer, I swear. Alright, after a bit of tinkering,
swear.
now we have movement. Very basic movement, but for now, this will do. Alright, you know what? Let's import Sonic's model after all.
Нифига себе.
Man, all this programming is tough work. And unfortunately,
That's
if you
so
want to
tough.
make games, there's not too many ways around it. If only there was a way for me to learn and get better without it feeling like a
Расскажи
chore.
про
But
новый
lucky for
способ
us,
учиться.
that's where today's sponsor comes into play, boot.dev. Boot.dev is designed to fight the
Boot.dev.
biggest enemy of learning,
Если
boredom.
вам вдруг
The platform is
интересно,
like jump next.
заходите.
When Sonic jumps, you're able to tap for a month or an entire
Boot.dev.
year. It's a fantastic deal. Huge thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring this video, and with all that being said, let's continue with today's episode.
Today's
Let's
episode.
program a basic jump next. When Sonic jumps, you're able to tap the
прыжочек.
jump button for a short jump and hold it for a full jump. This is called a variable jump height because it depends on how long you hold the button. So we'll make it so that if you're touching the ground and press the jump button, you'll initiate a jump.
Минимальный
Let's make
прыжок.
another variable for the jump force, then multiply this by the upward direction. We'll make a minimum jump
Да.
height though, so even if you tap the button for just a frame, you'll still go at least a minimum distance. Once you're actually jumping, you can either let go of the button to shorten your jump or hold it down until the maximum height. We'll also
Да.
make a separate fall player state because it's completely possible for Sonic to just walk off a ledge and go airborne without even jumping. Also, Sonic controls differently in the air than he does on the ground. In general, he's a lot slower. So we'll need to make separate air variables for acceleration, deceleration, and top speed and set them at lower values. And there we go.
Куда он улетел? That's all. I win.
Come on. Alright, I went in
Come
and did some
on.
more tinkering to fix it. We now have a basic jump and fall
А ещё у него
state. I think it's about time we
отрицательные
imported Sonic's
значения были.
animation so we can get a better
Он
feel
их
for how
отнимал?
this is going to look in action. Sonic has several running animations he cycles through when he builds up speed, and they all depend on how fast he's currently going. Luckily, Unity can keep track of all of our variables and feed them into the animator so it knows exactly how fast we're going. So we'll set up his idle animation when his speed is 0,
О,
a walk
прикольно.
for when he's going slow, a jog for when he picks up a bit more speed, a run for when he's approaching his top speed, a dash for when he's near his top speed, and an animation called jet for when he exceeds his top speed. We'll also
Jet?
make sure he has a falling and jump animation for when he's in the air.
Блин,
We
вообще
can also
пик.
utilize his jump animation later on for when we add the spin dash. It's pretty much the same thing. And yes, spoiler alert, we're 100% adding Sonic Adventure spin dash. Make sure to watch till the end because it's absolutely insane. But you'd be surprised
Блин, я
how
бы
much of an
хотел
impact animation has on the game
Spin
feel of the controls. Because just like that, despite controlling exactly the same, our character controller feels so
Ну,
much
что-то
better just
медленно,
because we
как будто
added
он.
animations. Anyways, let's go ahead and import a level from Sonic Adventure while we're at it. We'll definitely need something a bit more complicated than this flat surface to expand our character controller. I like using this rip of Speed Highway because it has this huge
Speed
hill and
Highway,
loop
да,
right
это-
at the beginning that we can use to test our more
Да.
advanced movement. Alright, now that we got all the basic stuff out of the way, it's time to overly complicate everything with rotations. So far, we've only been working with movement on a flat surface. But the thing that makes Sonic's gameplay so incredibly unique is how he aligns himself and follows
Да,
the
что он
rotation.
следует
This is exactly what makes it so that
поверхности.
he can go through things like loop-de-loops.
Особенно...
However, different games
Да,
handle
во-во-во.
this in different ways.
Сайклы.
In a lot of fan games and even Sonic Frontiers, they have what I like to call vomit camera. This is when the camera rotates along with Sonic as he rotates
Yeah.
with the ground and even goes through loop-de-loops. It makes programming Sonic's movement along slopes and loop-de-loops incredibly easy because the camera is always aligned with Sonic. Forward is always forward, left is always left, right is right, and so on. But there's a huge drawback. It's the
Ну-ка.
reason I call it vomit cam, because, yeah, it's really disorienting and becomes too easy to lose your
Да,
sense of
да.
direction as a player, and it can be straight
Это
up
минус.
nauseating.
Даже
So I'm
Sonic
making the
Frontiers,
very
который,
deliberate
когда я
decision
играл,
to not
хоть
include
там
vomit cam in the
ужасная
game.
просто
It'll be like
камера,
how the adventure games do it, which for the
и
most part
movement
has the
тоже
camera just upright.
в
This is
стейджах.
admittedly much harder to code
порталах.
since when you go through a loop-de-loop, at some point your inputs become crossed. Forward suddenly becomes backwards, and this can cause a ton of problems if you don't apply your movement correctly. This is something I had a bit of a hard time to figure out, but here's the solution I finally came up with.
Как раз,
What we want
по-моему,
to do is find the
он
normal of the
специально под
ground.
все
A
эти
normal is the perpendicular direction of a plane, like
лупы
the ground. So if the ground is
вставляют
flat, the normal is
эти ускорялки, чтобы
отключить управление игроку. Или наоборот, или не отключают управление игроку. Ну, в общем, петли там как-то обход точно есть какой-то.
straight up,
Вряд ли
where
оно
the
прям
normal
управляемое.
wall sticks out on its side, for example. We want to align Sonic to this normal. This is easy enough to do. We just set Sonic's up rotation to the normal of the ground, which is something Unity can easily detect when Sonic is touching the ground. But as Sonic continues to rotate towards the
Интересное решение.
90-degree point of a slope, where it essentially becomes a wall, our inputs get crossed and he gets stuck. This is where we need to take our actual input and make sure it's also rotating along the ground normal. That way, as we go through the loop-de-loop, our forward direction will naturally rotate to become our backwards direction without even moving the
Пик.
control stick. This
Он
is my
сделал
attempt at
это.
kind of visualizing the process. There's a ton of other ways to do this, I'm sure, but this was the simplest way I can think of that actually worked. Oh yeah, one more
Не, на
rotation
самом
I'll
деле,
be
кого-то
programming
прикольно.
in is going to make it so that Sonic rotates towards the downward direction of the slope he's standing on if there's no directional input from the player. This will be useful in just a second. Alright, now that we have Sonic actually rotating with the slopes correctly, we can now factor this into our speed calculations. In most Sonic games, when Sonic goes downhill, he's able to exceed his top speed. Conversely, going uphill has him go much slower. So on top of our regular acceleration and deceleration formula, we can make two separate formulas to adjust speed based on the severity of the slope's rotation. If going downhill, we'll multiply our slope rotation by a new variable called slope assistance to increase our speed. And if going uphill, we'll multiply our slope rotation by another new variable called slope drag to decrease our speed. Also, this way, we can separately control the strength of each
Математика.
direction, downwards or upwards.
Физика.
Oh, and obviously, the steeper the slope, the stronger the influence from both of these formulas. So Sonic will now be able to dynamically change speed based on the steepness of the slope. And it works. And because we set it up earlier, if we stop moving, Sonic will now begin to rotate towards the downward direction of the slope, and these formulas will take over and he'll begin to move downhill automatically. Awesome. What's really funny though is that if we go up this loop-de-loop and come to a stop, we'll
Да, я
keep
становлюсь
sticking to
это
it. So
прилип.
unless we want to be like Sonic 06, we're gonna have to find a way for Sonic to de-stick from the wall. It's actually
Блин, я даже не знал, что
extremely
там,
easy. The fact that this made it
что
into the
в
final
Sonic
game of
06 так
Sonic
работает.
06
Это
is
кошмар.
insanely baffling. I'll make it
Ну
so that if you're
да.
on a slope greater than 90 degrees, so think a wall or being upside down, and if you're below a certain speed, something really slow, you'll de-stick. And in order to actually de-stick, all we'll do is disable Sonic's ground detection for a moment. There we go. Oh god, Sonic, no! We can now run on walls properly and actually de-stick if we fall below a certain speed. Hell yeah, this is truly
Hell
happening.
yeah.
Let's complicate our jumps a bit by adding in some more rotations. Jumping on a flat ground has Sonic jump straight up, but doing so on a sloped surface will have Sonic jump at the same angle as the ground. So all we do is make it so that Sonic's initial jump force is aligned with the ground normal to send him in that direction. Another thing the adventure games are known for is slope jumping. This is where jumping on an upward slope with a ton of speed sends you jumping higher than if you were to do it on
Да,
flat
когда
ground,
разогнался
especially
на
if you do it
поверхности.
from a spin dash.
И в Sonic
Conversely,
Generation
jumping
тоже
from a
такое
downward
есть.
slope will
Там можно
actually
прям огромные
decrease your
участки
jump.
уровня
What
пропускать
I'll
с
do is
помощью
add
этого.
an extra force on top of the jump force that detects how fast
Да и
you're
в любой,
going
по-моему,
at the
игре
point
про
as
Sonic
we
даже
hit the
Sonic Unleashed.
ground. It'll also detect your velocity on the y-axis, aka up and down, so that if you were going downhill, aka a negative value on the y-axis, it'll actually subtract from your jump, causing it to be shorter. With this, we can have a dynamic jump height based on slopes, just like the adventure games. Yes, looks good. This is going
Looks
to be
good.
very important for what we're finally about to program. What's a Sonic game without a spin dash? Well, a lot of them actually.
Ну
But
да.
not if you're an adventure game. Spin dashing and the adventure games go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's a very important tool for making these games so fun. It works
Стоп. А при чем тут... А при чем тут ключи?
differently in each game, but for this project, I'll be modeling it after the spin dash from Sonic Adventure 1, aka the spam dash. In the first adventure game, you're able to repeatedly mash the spin dash button to rapidly build up speed. It's a great time, especially when you get good at spin dash jumping off slopes to skip huge portions of the level. The spin dash can be held down to charge its strength. When charging, the player rapidly comes to a stop. It isn't an instant stop though, as we can see Sonic slightly sliding after activating the spin dash charge. But the longer you hold down the button, the stronger your burst of speed when you release it. From my observations, it seems like getting the spin dash to full strength takes about a third of a second. So once we release our charge button, we'll set our speed equal to whatever speed we already had at the time of release, plus our charged spin dash speed. So based on how quickly you release the spin dash from 0 seconds to a third, it'll scale the strength of it. But even a spin dash that's just tapped for a single frame still gives you a boost, so there's gonna have to be a set base speed to this. When we're actually in the spin dash, we'll have to disable our acceleration.
А, реально. Peanut Butter and Jelly. Это есть песня, и это какой-то популярный пирог. ой, пирог, сэндвич с вот этим вот как раз-таки арахисовым маслом и желе. Ладно. Ну, выглядит как будто очень жирно, очень странно.
Based on controller input so we don't actually gain speed by pressing forward. Because we're rolling, we're purely letting our slope formulas take control of our speed. We can still steer though, and we'll also make it so that our acceleration off of slopes is higher than when simply running on foot. We'll also make our deceleration slower to make the spin dash a bit more slidey. Let's also make it so that if you press the spin dash button again while in a spin dash, you exit. That way you can chain spin dashes into each other in quick
Ой,
succession.
это классно, что
hence
когда ты
the
нажимаешь
spin
второй раз на
dash.
спин дэш,
And there we go. We have
ты
a functioning
бежишь
spin
уже, а
dash.
не в
But I
кружке.
just gotta make sure. Does our slope jumping formula play nice with our spin dash? Oh yeah,
Это
it sure
шикарно.
does. And it's absolutely beautiful. You can
Это
even perform this
абсолютно
exact
beautiful.
same skip and speed highway. Sonic Adventure 3 is here, baby. We did it. And there we
We
have
did
it. A basic Sonic Adventure styled character controller. This was made by simply observing Sonic's controls as I played it in-game. I don't actually know any of the code used to make Sonic move in these games, so
Ой,
I'm sure it's
текстура
all handled
поехала.
pretty differently. But when it comes to the player experience, the code doesn't technically matter as long as it feels good to play. There's a ton
Да,
I can improve on
достаточно
for sure,
прикольно.
like the jump can feel a bit janky at times. But this was a fun project, and I'm sure I'll come back to it to improve it over time. So if you'd like to see me
Блин,
add
это
more
было бы
features in
круто.
the future, the best way to let me know is by leaving a comment below on what you'd like to see next. If you ever plan on getting into game design, doing exercises like this is extremely important. Breaking down how you think something works and then trying to recreate it yourself is probably the best way to improve your game design brain. And listen, I ran into hours of issues that I didn't even show on this video, but every feature implemented, every problem solved, improves your skill, even if it does take almost an entire day just to get the jump working. But, you know, it's fine. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a fat like and subscribe for even more way past cool Sonic content such as this. In the comments below, let me know if you'd like to see me continue this character controller and what features you'd like to see implemented next. Huge thank you to
Блин,
my
было бы
amazing
прикольно
channel
лайт дэш
members.
видеть.
And with all that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Peace.
Или баунс, баунс, как он называется? Или стомп дэш, как он называется? Есть стомп, а есть баунс. Так, оценка видео. Однозначно лайк, однозначная подписка. Чувак очень хорош. Ну, оно и видно по видео. Запарился, разобрал механики, воссоздал их на Unity. Сделал демку, которая, ну, уже выглядит приятно. Как будто уже готова фан-игра, остается только там шейдеры навесить на левел и врагов поставить. И все. Пик. Поправляю галстук. И оценка видео 9 из 10. Было бы 10, если бы, наверное, больше вставил ошибок каких-то. Или сделал прям отдельную часть под ошибки. Все-таки это иногда прикольно посмотреть. Но, наверное, не хотел загружать сильно аудиторию, чтобы удержание, вот это все, они же работают на деньги. Но в целом все прикольно. Ставлю, еще раз повторюсь, 9 из 10. Пик. Мне очень понравилось. Скоро буду сам проходить Sonic Adventure. А потом, может, чем-нибудь сделаем. Какие-нибудь моды на нее, потому что я раньше делал и текстурные моды, и уровневые моды через редактирование DLL. Может, не знаю, посмотрим. Спасибо.